Thanks, everyone. Really happy to be here. Pop that there. I hear everyone's very excited to hear about the results, so no pressure at all. So we have conducted some research on behalf of NSF, exploring challenges facing pharma and biotech decision makers across Europe. And I'm going to take you guys all through the findings today. So I'm going to start by talking through the methodology that we used, a sort of snapshot of some of the key findings, although you'll probably read in a lot more detail in the report. And then I'm going to take you through each theme that we addressed in the questionnaire. So they include quality system maturity and progress, data integrity and compliance approaches, inspection readiness, the role of compliance-related technology and human resource, future-ready technology skills, and regulatory change and strategic adaptation. And then we'll end with the conclusion before handing over to the panel. So to begin, we interviewed 100 quality manager or directors and regulatory managers or directors at pharmaceutical or biotech companies across Europe. And the data was collected via an online survey between the 20th and 26th of August, 2025. So here's a snapshot of the respondent profile. As you can see, it's skewed towards men. Respondents were aged between 35 and 54. We had a majority of respondents coming from pharmaceutical companies, so 66 compared to 44% from biotechnology companies. We had an even split between regulatory professionals and quality professionals, and an even split between manager and director levels, so real good spread there. In terms of experience, the average respondent had 11 years of experience in the sector. It's a little bit blurry, but hopefully you can make out the map on the right-hand side. This just shows the fallout of the respondents across Europe. So we had 25 in the UK, 9 in Spain, 10 in each of France, Belgium, and Switzerland, 11 in each of Italy and Germany, 10 also in Denmark, and 4 in Sweden. So really good spread across Europe. So some of the key takeaways. We found that there's a maturity gap in quality system. There's a gap in quality system maturity across the sector. So we found that only half of companies have advanced or risk-based quality systems. 1/4 are moderately developed, and the remainder largely compliance-orientated. We also looked at data integrity challenges, and we found that data integrity really depends on culture just as much as systems. So integration of multiple data systems was the main barrier, but we found various organizational challenges that these organizations are facing too. Having said that, it's actually quality culture initiatives like training that are the most effective in ensuring sustainable data integrity outcomes. We also did a bit of a deep dive into how organizations are investing in technology and human resource, and we found that actually investment in both of these areas is just as important as each other. So the reasons for investing in people and technology are very similar, highlighting a dual need for investing in both. Perhaps unsurprisingly, we found that AI, according to the audience, will lead the way in transforming quality management. Having said that, professionals will need to upskill in a range of areas in the future. And finally, we looked at some of the new regulation and found that the EU Annex 1 revision presents the most significant compliance challenge to manufacturers. But interestingly, it was that training, people skills development, and collaboration that is going to be key for organizations to overcome those challenges. So to begin with quality system maturity and progress, we looked at the maturity of organizations' quality systems, but also how they're improving. And our first finding was that the quality system landscape is uneven. So while more than a half have an advanced or fully integrated risk-based system, 1/4 are moderately developed, and the remainder largely compliance-orientated. So this really indicates a gap in quality system maturity across the sector, potentially leaving organizations exposed. There has been quite a lot of improvements in quality systems. In particular, we found risk management has seen the most improvement, perhaps because organizations are responding to regulatory change. Also, CAPA effectiveness. Quality metrics and change control also featured in the top areas where organizations have seen improvements in their quality systems. Other governance type aspects, such as internal audits programs and management review processes, have seen slower improvement. So now we actually looked at supply chain integrity challenges as well as data integrity challenges and the approaches organizations are taking to mitigate these. So on supply chain integrity, we found that there's a range of vulnerabilities in supply chain integrity, most noticeably raw materials and component sourcing and authentication, really suggesting that these organizations are concerned with what's coming in at the start of the process, as well as this data transparency and traceability and manufacturing outsourcing oversight were seen as critical vulnerabilities, suggesting that organizations are sort of lacking visibility and control across the supply chain. As for data integrity challenges, we found that there's a sort of mix of technical and organizational challenges. So integration of multiple data systems and legacy systems, so those outdated systems, as well as more organizational challenges like the effectiveness of training and organizational culture. And then in terms of what approaches have yielded the most sustainable compliance outcomes when it comes to data integrity, we found that it was actually quality culture initiatives such as training, awareness and governance that is most effective, mentioned by a third here. Having said that, the story is a little bit more nuanced, as equal proportions reported technical controls and risk-based approaches as being effective, and just under a quarter saying that a balanced approach. So while organizations are sort of taking lots of different approaches that are seemingly effective, it's quality culture initiatives that are most effective. And as for mitigation strategies, supplier-focused strategies dominate here. So supplier audit program enhancement, risk-based supply qualification tiers are all seen as more effective mitigation strategies than, onshoring existing supply chains, or perhaps some of the newer and less adopted strategies such as blockchain and distributed ledger technology. And so on to inspection readiness. So we looked at how organizations are maintaining inspection readiness, but also measuring it. So in terms of how they're maintaining it, we found that the continuous compliance model is most commonly adopted. However, this was a single choice question. It's worth mentioning that respondents were asked for their primary approach to maintaining inspection readiness. So while sort of just under 30% said continuous compliance model, the remaining circa 70% using a different range of approaches, such as periodic mock inspections and internal self-inspections. So while continuous compliance model is the most common, it's showing that the sector isn't necessarily converging on one approach. In terms of measurements, quality metrics are the most common way of measuring inspection readiness, with 58% of the respondents reporting this. So this is closely followed by 55% who said a reduction in internal audit mock inspections and 52% in reduction in actual inspection observations. So now moving on to the role of compliance-related technology and human resource, we did a bit of a deep dive into sort of how organizations are choosing to invest, but also what those drivers are. So to start with, we've actually found that there's a shift towards investment in technology over the last 3 years. So half have shifted their investment into technology in the last 3 years, and around a third have shifted their investment into people. However, when we actually asked how organizations are currently prioritizing their investment, and this is quite even. So we had equal proportions putting emphasis on technology investment as they are people investment, and just under a half saying that they're applying a balanced investment in both areas. So this was already sort of indicating to us that there's a dual need for investing in both. And we followed up with this question, asking an open text question, giving respondents opportunities to sort of free type their answers, to understand what some of the drivers for these investment choices are. We found quite a lot of overlap. So this is a respondent who is prioritizing investment in human resource. They said that investing in human capital is necessary to fill the skills gaps in advanced analytics. But we also found quite a lot of other comments about the role of technology in advanced analytics. So as an example here, one respondent is talking about the handling of large data. So we produced this analysis grid of the responses, and this basically shows the overlapping reasons for investing in people and technology, which really highlights the dual need for investing in both. So, for example, compliance and audit readiness, this came out as the most common reason for investing in either people or technology. From a people perspective, that's really around staff development, mentoring others, and having that strong regulatory knowledge. From a technology perspective, it's more about having the systems in place to sort of track and automate. So, for example, traceability systems and digital records for compliance were mentioned. I won't read everything out here, but just another one that I thought was interesting is how both the reasons for investing in both people and technology for agility were the same. So, given sort of like the constant changing demands of the sector, it's interesting that organizations see both people and technology as needing to be agile. So from a people perspective, that's having that interdisciplinary knowledge to be able to adapt. But from a technology perspective, agile systems and innovations to meet changing demands. But we also found areas where technology and people are uniquely placed to deliver. So, for example, this is a respondent who is emphasizing investment in technology, who said that promoting the use of digital labs, robotics, and cloud-based services to lower R&D expenses while expanding drug discovery. So quite a lot around how technology is uniquely placed to optimize drug discovery. And then we found quite a lot of areas where respondents feel that humans are uniquely placed to sort of deliver that customer service experience. And we also found that with training, whereas technology less so. So this is just the analysis grid looking at where people and technology investments serve distinct purposes. So I mentioned customer service, customer experience, but also that need for structured training, mentoring initiatives to improve consistency and reliability. However, technology, it's obviously uniquely placed to be innovative, but also so that organizations can stay competitive. And also just in general, automating tedious tasks, being able to do real-time monitoring and also system upgrades. And then I also mentioned drug optimization, drug discovery optimization. So with these investments for the future, what are the technologies and the skills that organizations will need? Well, in terms of the technologies that offer the greatest potential to transform the quality management and regulatory compliance, perhaps unsurprisingly, 58% said that artificial intelligence and machine learning would be has the greatest potential. We also had 55% saying advanced analytics and predictive modeling, which has come up quite a lot, and 44% on integrating quality management platforms. There's sort of less of a feeling that augmented reality for training and sort of technology use for training would have the potential to transform. Having said that, there are a range of barriers to integrating technology across organizations. Just looking at the top three. So I mentioned earlier that outdated systems are a challenge. So having legacy system integration, actually these people having to justify the cost of technology and the return on investment, but also validation complexities with technology. And then looking at the essential skills that quality and compliance professionals will need in the next 5 years. Well, 57% of respondents mentioned regulatory intelligence across multiple markets. So again, it's been mentioned sort of having that knowledge to be able to adapt. 54% said advanced risk management methodologies, and 47% data science and advanced analytics. So obviously a need for technology and people for both. So finally, just ending on the theme of regulatory change and strategic adaptation. So we looked at the new regulations and how organizations are adapting to them. And so we found that quite clearly the EU Annex 1 revision is presenting the most significant compliance challenges to manufacturers, with over a third reporting this. However, again, this was a single choice question, so it's worth noting that there's sort of a majority of organizations that are sort of facing challenges with other regulations, such as the EU Pharmaceutical Strategy Initiative, EU Clinical Trials Regulation. And finally, looking at how organizations are adapting to these challenges, it's enhanced training programs that are most common, most popular, as well as cross-functional task forces, and some are redesigning their entire quality management systems in response. So just to summarize on some of the key takeaways. So the quality system maturity gap could leave a quarter at risk of regulatory exposure. Promisingly, risk management is improving, showing that organizations are responding to regulatory expectations. Data integrity depends on culture as much as systems, and we actually found that it was the quality culture initiatives that are most effective in ensuring sustainable data integrity outcomes. We also found a range of vulnerabilities in supply chain integrity, and it's those kind of supplier-focused mitigation approaches that are most effective. As for inspection readiness, the continuous compliance model is the most common approach to maintaining it, but there's no clear industry standard, and organizations are focusing on data-driven inspection readiness measures. And then on investment, so what we found is that investment in both people and technology is essential. In particular, so a lot of overlap when it comes to compliance and audit readiness, as well as operational efficiency, but where technology can play a unique role is driving competitiveness in organizations, but also integration and drug discovery. And where people are uniquely placed is really around sort of improving customer experience and training and mentoring. AI will lead. AI will lead the way in tech innovation, but there's several obstacles for organizations to overcome, such as outdated systems. And in terms of sort of people development, there'll be a range of sort of skills for professionals to upskill, most notably global regulatory intelligence and advanced risk management. And then finally, as just mentioned, the EU Annex revision presents the most significant compliance challenge to manufacturers, and it is that people training and collaborative approach that organizations are implementing to try and tackle some of those challenges.